March 28, 1911. Rock Island Arsenal, Illinois. The morning sun rose over the Mississippi River as military procurement officers assembled in a testing facility that would witness a demonstration destined to reshape American military history forever. In their hands were evaluation forms for a pistol that skeptics dismissed as overly intricate, unnecessarily powerful, and destined for rapid obsolescence. The firearm before them, John Moses Browning's automatic pistol design, would within hours be designated the Model 1911. What none of them could foresee was that this supposedly outdated design would become the most widely issued sidearm of the Second World War, serve through 7 decades of American conflicts, and remain in elite military service over a century later. The durability of this pistol was being established not merely in ballistics reports, but in a design philosophy so fundamental that it would outlast every technological trend claiming to render it obsolete. The transformation from doubtful experiment to iconic weapon had already begun. The crisis that inspired America's most enduring sidearm erupted in the sweltering jungles of the southern Philippines. The official Philippine-American War ended in 1902, but intense combat persisted through the Moro Rebellion, which lasted until 1913. American forces confronted an enemy unlike any they had faced before. The Moro warriors, indigenous Muslim tribesmen of Mindanao and the Sulu archipelago, combined religious zeal with sophisticated combat tactics that rendered conventional American weapons nearly ineffective. Captain John Pershing, later to command American forces in World War I, documented engagements where Moro warriors absorbed multiple shots from standard-issue Colt Model 1892 revolvers chambered in .38 long Colt. These warriors, often in drug-induced states that suppressed pain, continued their attacks despite injuries that should have been incapacitating. American soldiers found themselves in desperate situations, emptying their revolvers into charging Moros, who still reached them with barong swords, killing them before finally succumbing to their wounds. After-action reports painted a grim scene. 2 bodies lying near each other became tragically common, a Moro warrior with 6 bullet wounds in his chest, and an American soldier slashed by blades, his empty .38 caliber revolver still clutched in death. The military recognized that the .38 long Colt cartridge lacked the decisive stopping power needed for close-quarters jungle combat. In response, the Army revived an older weapon. The Colt single-action Army revolver chambered in .45 Colt had been the standard sidearm since 1873. It had proven devastatingly effective against Plains Indians during the American frontier wars. Though officially replaced by lighter .38 caliber revolvers in 1892, stockpiles of these heavy revolvers remained. When issued to troops fighting the Moros, the results were immediate and dramatic. The larger .45 caliber bullet, weighing 230 grains compared to the .38 caliber's 150 grains, delivered the stopping power that saved American lives. This battlefield experience crystallized a military requirement. American forces needed a modern sidearm combining the rapid-fire capability of semi-automatic operation with the proven effectiveness of the .45 caliber cartridge. In 1904, Colonel John Thompson and Major Louisard conducted systematic tests on both animal and human cadavers to determine the most effective pistol caliber. Despite scientific limitations noted by modern experts, these tests led the military to conclude that any new service pistol should be no less than .45 caliber. The stage was set for a competition that would produce one of history's most significant firearms. In 1907, the United States Army Ordnance Department issued specifications for a new automatic pistol. The requirements were exacting. The weapon had to chamber a .45 caliber cartridge, have a magazine capacity of at least 6 rounds, and feature a trigger pull not exceeding 6 pounds. It needed to eject spent cartridges vertically for ambidextrous operation and demonstrate exceptional reliability under extreme testing designed to destroy lesser designs. 7 manufacturers submitted entries: Bergmann from Germany, Colt from Connecticut, Deutsche Waffen Fabrik from Germany, Noble from Germany, Savage from Massachusetts, Webley from Britain, and White Merrill from the United States. The testing board subjected each pistol to thousands of rounds of continuous fire, exposure to mud, dust, and water immersion, and deliberate attempts to induce malfunctions. By 1910, only 2 pistols remained in contention: the Savage Model 1907 and John Moses Browning's design, manufactured by Colt, both chambered the newly developed .45 automatic Colt pistol cartridge, specifically designed to replicate the effectiveness of the old .45 Colt revolver while functioning reliably in semi-automatic actions. The final torture test began on March 3, 1911. Each pistol would fire 6,000 rounds over 2 consecutive days. Browning himself attended the tests, standing alongside cult representatives as military observers documented every detail. The Savage pistol performed admirably for the first 1,000 rounds. Then malfunctions began appearing, failures to feed, failures to eject. By the end of testing, 37 malfunctions had accumulated across the 6,000 round count. The testing board documented every issue with clinical precision. Browning's anti-pistol told a different story. Through 6,000 rounds, it functioned flawlessly. 0 malfunctions. The official trials report stated the Colt functioned perfectly for all 6 1,000 round sessions. The demonstration was conclusive at 75 feet. Accuracy testing showed the Colt achieving a mean radius of 0.855 8,555 and compared to the Savage's 1.97 inches. Military observers noted that firing 500 rounds with the Savage produced fatigue equivalent to firing 2,000 rounds with the Colt. On March 29, 1911, the United States Army officially adopted John Moses Browning's design as the automatic pistol caliber .45 model of 1911. The initial contract called for 30 .262 pistols delivered to Springfield Armory. Production began immediately at Colt's facility in Hartford, Connecticut, and at the government-owned Springfield Armory in Massachusetts. April 6, 1917. The United States declared war on Germany. Within months, American forces began deploying to France as part of the American Expeditionary Forces. Among the equipment issued to officers and specialized troops were Model 1911 pistols. Many soldiers had never seen an automatic pistol before. The weapon represented cutting-edge military technology, a stark contrast to the revolvers that had armed previous generations. The trenches of Western Europe provided the Model 1911's first major combat test. In the close-quarters nightmare of trench warfare, where enemies often appeared at distances measured in feet rather than yards, soldiers needed weapons that could deliver instant, decisive results. The 1911 exceeded every expectation. October 8, 1918. Near Hill 223, Châtel-Cherilly, France. Corporal Alvin York found himself commanding 7 soldiers after his unit's officers had been killed or wounded. Their mission was to silence German machine gun positions that were inflicting heavy casualties on advancing American forces. York's squad had captured a German major and several soldiers, but suddenly came under fire from 35 German soldiers equipped with multiple machine guns. In the firefight that followed, 9 members of York's patrol were killed or wounded. York found himself in a partially exposed position, armed with his Model 1903 Springfield rifle and his Model 1911 pistol. Using the rifle, he began engaging the machine gun positions. German records indicate he fired with devastating accuracy. Then 6 German soldiers fixed bayonets and charged his position. York had emptied his rifle. He drew his Model 1911 pistol. In the span of seconds, he shot all 6 attackers before they could reach him. York later explained his technique. He shot them from back to front, furthest to nearest, like shooting wild turkeys. The front soldiers wouldn't realize the rear ones were being shot. The psychological impact on the remaining German soldiers was immediate. The Major York had captured offered to order his men to surrender if York would stop shooting. When American forces reached York's position, they found him guarding 132 German prisoners, 4 officers, and 128 enlisted men. York was credited with killing at least 25 enemy soldiers using a combination of his rifle and pistol. He received the Medal of Honor for this action. His citation specifically documented the Model 1911's critical role when those 6 soldiers charged with bayonets. York's action became legendary, but it was far from unique. Across the Western Front, American soldiers reported the Model 1911's reliability and effectiveness. Officers praised its accuracy. Soldiers valued its power. The .45 caliber cartridge, firing a 230-grain bullet at approximately 830 foot-pulse, delivered the decisive effect that combat demanded. The war ended November 11, 1918. American industry had produced hundreds of thousands of Model 1911 pistols during the conflict. Combat experience had validated every design decision. The weapon that skeptics had called overly complex had proven utterly reliable. Under conditions that would have destroyed lesser firearms. Caked in mud, exposed to rain and snow, subjected to the brutal conditions of trench warfare, the Model 1911 functioned. Between the wars, military experience led to minor improvements. In 1926, the modified design was designated the Model 1911A1. Changes included a shortened trigger frame, cutouts behind the trigger, an arched mainspring housing, a longer grip safety spur, a wider front sight, and simplified grip checkering. Pistols manufactured after serial number 700,000 received the A1 designation. These modifications refined the design without changing its fundamental operation. John Moses Browning passed away in 1926. Just as his pistol entered this new phase of service, he had witnessed its success in World War I. Though he could not foresee the extraordinary career that lay ahead, his genius lay not in following technological trends, but in understanding fundamental principles of mechanical design. The Model 1911 embodied those principles completely. September 1, 1939. Germany invaded Poland. Within 2 years, the United States would be drawn into the largest conflict in human history. The Army began a massive mobilization that would eventually place millions of men under arms. Each soldier required equipment. The existing inventory of Model 1911 and Model 1911 or 1 pistols numbering in the hundreds of thousands would prove completely inadequate for the war ahead. The industrial challenge was unprecedented. The military needed not thousands of pistols but millions. Traditional firearms manufacturers lacked the capacity to meet this demand. The solution required transforming American industrial might into weapons production on a scale never before attempted. The government turned to companies with no firearms experience whatsoever. Remington Rand, a typewriter and office equipment manufacturer formed in 1927 from the merger of Remington Typewriter and Rand Cardex, converted a vacant Syracuse typewriter plant to pistol production. Union Switch and Signal, a railroad switching and signaling equipment manufacturer from Swissvale, Pennsylvania, organized by George Westinghouse in 1881, retold to produce pistols. Singer's Sewing Machine Company received an educational order intended to develop production capability and transfer expertise to other contractors. The Singer contract deserves special attention. Educational Order WD 396, issued April 17, 1940, represented a pre-war mobilization program under the Army Appropriations Act of 1938. The goal was achieving 100 pistols per hour production rate while developing detailed manufacturing documentation other contractors could follow. Singer completed only 500 pistols between serial numbers S80000000001 and S80000000500 by December 1941. The company never achieved its production goals. The additional contract for 15,000 pistols was cancelled and Singer's tooling was transferred to Remington Rand. Those 500 Singer pistols became the most valuable military model 1911 ones ever produced. One sold at auction for $414,000 in 2017. Despite Singer's limited production, the educational order succeeded in its primary mission. The manufacturing documentation Singer developed enabled rapid industrial mobilization. Companies with no firearms experience learned to produce precision weapons at scale. The production numbers tell the story of American industrial capacity. Between 1941 and 1945, 5 manufacturers produced Model 1911A. 1 pistols for military service. Remington Rand manufactured 877,751 pistols, becoming the most productive manufacturer and producing nearly 50% of the war's total at the lowest per unit cost. Ithaca Gun Company, an established firearms manufacturer from Ithaca, New York, produced 335,466 pistols and developed the stamped trigger assembly adopted by all manufacturers. Colt, the original manufacturer, produced approximately 410,000 pistols. Union Switch and Signal manufactured 55,000 pistols before their contract was reduced when they shifted to M1 carbine. Parts production. Singer's 500 educational order pistols completed the total. The combined production reached 1,878,742 pistols. This represented the largest single procurement of handguns in American military history to that point. A typewriter company became the most prolific manufacturer of military pistols. A railroad equipment manufacturer produced precision firearms. The transformation demonstrated American industrial flexibility and capacity in ways that would prove as decisive as any battlefield victory. The pistols these companies manufactured went everywhere American forces fought: Europe, the Pacific, North Africa. They equipped not only American forces but also Allied soldiers through Lend-Lease. British commandos carried them. Free French forces used them. Chinese soldiers fighting in Burma were armed with them. Soviet forces received them. The Model 1911A1 became a truly global weapon. In the Pacific theater, the Model 1911A1 proved particularly valued. The humid corrosive environment of jungle warfare destroyed many weapons. Salt spray corroded metal, mud jammed mechanisms, rain-soaked equipment. The Model 1911A1's robust steel construction and simple design kept it functioning where more complex weapons failed. Marines island hopping across the Pacific carried them through swamps and coral beaches. The brutal reality of amphibious assaults meant soldiers often waded through surf with equipment submerged. The Model 1911A1 continued functioning after such treatment. A simple field strip cleaning and lubrication restored full operation. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Saipan, Pelu, Uama, Okinawa. Each island campaign proved the pistol's value. Marines clearing Japanese bunkers and cave systems found the .45 caliber cartridge delivered decisive results at close range. The psychological effect of the large-bore weapon in confined spaces proved as valuable as its physical characteristics. Japanese soldiers who survived encounters with American forces consistently reported fear of the large-caliber American pistols. Soldiers in New Guinea and the Philippines relied on them in close-quarters jungle combat that echoed the weapon's origins fighting Moros 4 decades earlier. The 40-year circle from Philippine jungles to Philippine jungles, from Moro warriors to Japanese soldiers, validated every design decision made in 1911. The weapon proved as effective in 1945 as it had been conceptualized for 1902. The pistol saved countless American lives in situations far beyond conventional combat. Pilots downed over enemy territory used them for defense during evasion and escape. The compact Size and reliability made it ideal for survival situations. Lieutenant Louis Zamperini, whose B-24 was shot down over the Pacific in May 1943, carried his Model 1911 A1 through 47 days adrift at sea before capture. Though he never needed to fire it, the pistol remained functional despite weeks of saltwater exposure. Paratroopers jumping behind enemy lines on D-Day and during Operation Market Garden carried them as secondary weapons when their primary weapons were damaged or ammunition exhausted. The pistol's reliability after parachute jumps, rough landings, and hours of combat made it invaluable. Tank crews, whose primary weapons were useless outside their vehicles, relied on Model 1911 A1s if forced to abandon damaged tanks. Numerous accounts document tank crews fighting their way to friendly lines with only their pistols after mechanical breakdowns or enemy fire disabled their vehicles. Navy personnel on ships used them to repel boarders and defend damage control parties. During kamikaze attacks, sailors fighting fires and rescuing wounded shipmates carried Model 1911 A1s for protection against infiltrators or as last resort weapons if their ship was boarded. The pistol's resistance to saltwater corrosion proved essential in the naval environment. In the European theater, the weapon proved equally valuable. Airborne operations over Normandy, Holland, and Germany saw widespread pistol use. Officers leading infantry assaults carried them. Combat engineers clearing obstacles under fire needed weapons that functioned reliably. Military police securing rear areas and guarding prisoners relied on them. Every role where soldiers needed a dependable secondary weapon, the Model 1911A proved its worth. The winter of 1944 brought the Battle of the Bulge. American forces, caught by surprise in the Ardennes forest, fought desperate defensive actions in bitter cold. Weapons that had functioned perfectly in mild weather seized up in sub-zero temperatures. Lubricants thickened. Actions froze. The Model 1911 A1 properly maintained with appropriate cold weather lubricants continued functioning. Soldiers learned to keep their pistols inside their clothing when possible, using body heat to prevent freezing. The simple design meant that even if ice formed, a few minutes of warming restored function. Walter Walsh, legendary FBI agent who became a Marine Corps colonel, demonstrated the weapon's potential in trained hands. During action on Okinawa in 1944, Walsh killed a Japanese sniper from 90 yards away with a single Model 1911 pistol shot to the torso. This extraordinary feat, well documented in authoritative sources, including American Rifleman, showcased what exceptional marksmanship could achieve with this platform. Walsh, who lived to 106 years old, became the FBI's oldest living former agent. August 15, 1945. Japan surrendered. The Second World War ended. The United States emerged as a superpower. Its military equipped with weapons whose production had overwhelmed Axis industrial capacity. Among those weapons, the Model 1911A1 had proven itself utterly reliable across every climate and every theater. The post-war period brought new conflicts that would test the weapon under conditions its designers never imagined. Korea from 1950 to 1953 presented unique challenges. The peninsula's brutal winters brought temperatures that froze lubricants and seized mechanisms. Early in the war, soldiers discovered that weapons lubricated for temperate climates failed in Korean cold. The Model 1911A proved adaptable. Complete removal of lubricants, running the weapon dry, prevented the frost lock that disabled other firearms. Soldiers learned to fire their pistols periodically during static periods to keep actions moving through friction and heat. Brigadier General SLA Marshall, chief historian for the European theater in World War II and Korean War combat historian, documented the pistol's performance extensively. His after-action reports noted more praise for the weapon's usefulness in Korea than during either World War. The fighting often devolved into close quarters battles where rifles were too cumbersome. Chinese forces employed mass infantry tactics, overwhelming defensive positions through sheer numbers. American forces defending perimeter positions found the Model 1911 A1 effective at 25 yards, a range at which aimed pistol fire could be decisive. The pistol proved particularly effective in close-quarters trench and bunker combat. Chinese and North Korean forces used tunnel and trench systems extensively. Clearing these positions required weapons that could deliver decisive results in confined spaces while remaining controllable. The Model 1911 A1 size, weight, and power combined perfectly for this role. Soldiers who had questioned the pistol's bulk before experiencing close combat universally praised it afterward. Night fighting characterized much of the Korean War. Chinese forces frequently attacked at night, infiltrating American positions before launching close-range assaults. Soldiers on guard duty relied heavily on pistols. The Model 1911 A1's simple controls, operable by touch in total darkness, proved essential. The grip safety and manual thumb safety could be disengaged instantly. The single-action trigger required only light pressure. Soldiers trained to operate the weapon by feel alone, a capability that saved lives during night battles. Vietnam from 1961 to 1975 presented another extreme environment. Most pistols in service were World War II-era rebuilds with mixed manufacturer parts, testimony to the original frame's durability. Parts from Colt, Remington, Rand, Ithaca, and Union Switch and Signal appeared together in single pistols. These Franken pistols, assembled from whatever parts remained serviceable, continued functioning decades after manufacture. The Vietnam conflict made the Model 1911 A1 famous in a role its designers never envisioned. Tunnel rats. Soldiers who explored the extensive Viet Cong tunnel complexes beneath Cu Chi and the Iron Triangle made the pistol their primary weapon. These underground networks extended for hundreds of miles, containing barracks, hospitals, weapons factories, and command centers. American forces needed to explore and destroy these installations. The job fell to volunteers who would crawl through pitch-black tunnels, often less than 3 feet in diameter, hunting enemy soldiers on their home territory. For tunnel rats, weapon selection was critical. Rifles were too long for the confined spaces. Shotguns were too bulky. Carbines were marginally better, but still cumbersome. The Model 1911 A1 proved ideal. Its length allowed manipulation in tunnels barely wide enough to crawl through. Its power meant one shot could end a tunnel fight. Its reliability was absolute even after crawling through mud and water. The conditions were nightmarish. Complete darkness. Temperatures over 100 degrees. Humidity approaching 100%. Air thick with mold spores and dust. Booby traps at every turn. Enemy soldiers waiting inside chambers, rats, snakes, and scorpions sharing the tunnels. In these conditions, tunnel rats trusted only the Model 1911 A1. They accepted the blinding muzzle flash in confined spaces. They endured the deafening report that could cause temporary or permanent hearing damage. They suffered the concussion effects in enclosed tunnels. All of it was worth enduring for the decisive effect of .45 caliber at arm's length. The tunnel rats modified their pistols minimally. They wanted absolute reliability over any accessory. Some removed the magazine safeties to ensure the pistol would fire even if the magazine was dislodged during crawling. Most carried them with chambers loaded and hammers cocked, thumb resting on the safety. In tunnel darkness, fumbling with a safety could prove fatal. They needed weapons ready to fire instantly. Some taped small flashlights to their pistols. Most relied on sound and instinct. Accounts from tunnel rats consistently emphasize one point. They never questioned the .45 caliber choice. Every tunnel rat who fired their pistol in combat reported one shot ending the fight. The psychological effect of the weapons report in enclosed spaces was as devastating as its physical characteristics. Viet Cong soldiers who survived tunnel encounters reported terror at the sound and concussion of the large caliber pistol. No new complete pistols were purchased during the Vietnam War. The government continued purchasing replacement parts through the early 1990s. This fact reveals the design's durability. World War II frames manufactured between 1941 and 1945 remained serviceable through the 1990s. 50 years of military service. Hundreds of thousands of rounds fired. Carried through jungles, deserts, forests, and urban environments. The frames endured. January 14, 1985. The United States military adopted the Beretta M9 as its official service pistol. The contract called for 315,930 pistols across all service branches. The model 1911A1, after 74 years of service, was officially replaced. Military procurement officers cited the M9's higher magazine capacity, lighter weight, and double-action trigger as advantages. The 9mm NATO cartridge offered greater ammunition commonality with Allied forces. Yet the story didn't end with official replacement. Elite units immediately began bucking the decision. Their preference was not based on nostalgia or tradition, but on combat experience and capability assessment. Special operations forces who faced the highest stakes combat situations chose to retain and improve the Model 1911 platform rather than adopt the newer Beretta. Force Reconnaissance Marines had already begun using custom EOS pistols in 1985 before the Beretta adoption. The Marine Corps Precision Weapons Section at Quantico formally began the customization program in 1986. This represented a deliberate decision to maintain the older platform through extensive modification rather than accept the standard issue replacement. The MUSOC pistol program demonstrated what expert armorers could achieve with the basic design. Each pistol began with a carefully selected World War II era Model 1911. One-frame armorers inspected hundreds of frames to find examples with minimal wear, proper dimensions, and no structural issues. These frames, often manufactured 40 to 50 years earlier, became the foundation for precision combat pistols. The rebuilding process was extensive. Bardo match-grade stainless steel barrels replaced worn original barrels. These barrels were hand-fitted to each frame, achieving tolerances that enhanced accuracy dramatically. Novak low-mount combat sights replaced the tiny original sights, providing a clear sight picture in varied lighting conditions. Wilson Combat 7-round magazines with enhanced followers and springs ensured reliable feeding. VidCI speed triggers with precise 4.5 to 5 pounds pull weights gave crisp brakes that enhanced accuracy. Ambidextrous thumb safeties accommodated both right and left-handed shooters. Pacmia rubber grips improved control under recoil. Every component was selected for reliability and performance. The rebuild schedule reveals the frame's durability. Pistols were completely rebuilt after 10,000 rounds. Yet the frames themselves often had over 500,000 rounds fired through them across their lifetime. World War II combat training exercises, multiple rebuild cycles. The fundamental steel frame design proved nearly indestructible. as long as proper maintenance occurred. And parts were replaced as needed, the basic frame endured indefinitely. Army Special Forces maintained Model 1911 use after M9 adoption through similar customization. Each Special Forces group maintained armorers who built custom pistols to individual operator specifications. The single-action trigger allowed accurizing to levels impossible with double-action designs. Operators who trained extensively with the platform achieved accuracy that justified its lower magazine capacity. 7 rounds of .45 caliber properly placed proved more effective than 15 rounds of 9mm with lower hit probability. Delta Force made Custom Model 1911 a one standard issue under founder Colonel Charlie Beckwith. Beckwith, a veteran of British SAS exchange programs, evaluated multiple pistol options before settling on heavily modified Model 1911s. Unit gunsmiths performed match-grade accurizing that transformed issue pistols into precision instruments. The philosophy was simple. Elite operators deserved elite equipment. The Model 1911 properly built represented the pinnacle of combat pistol design. 3rd Special Forces Group's 2003 request for Model 1911, a once for their Afghanistan deployment, illustrated the continued preference. Despite having access to newer pistols, they specifically requested the older design. Their reasoning was direct. Operators were trained on the platform. They trusted it. Combat was not the time to learn new equipment. The group deployed to Afghanistan with customized Model 1911 A1S and used them throughout the deployment. The preference among elite units was not nostalgia. These were the most skilled pistol users in the military, with access to any weapon available and extensive training or budgets that allowed mastery of multiple platforms. Their consistent choice of highly modified Model 1911s demonstrated that in capable hands, the design retained meaningful advantages over newer alternatives. The single-action trigger provided superior accuracy potential for trained shooters. The .45 caliber cartridge delivered greater effect per round, crucial when facing enemies wearing body armor or in drug-induced states. The steel frame absorbed recoil effectively, enabling faster, accurate follow-up shots. The intuitive controls operated reliably, even under extreme stress. In 2012, the Marine Corps formalized this preference with a decision that validated decades of special operations experience. Colt Defense received a contract valued at $22.5 million for M45A1 pistols. This was not a modification program, but procurement of newly manufactured pistols built to modern specifications. The initial order for 4.36 pistols included options up to 12,000 total. The Marines were investing significant funds to maintain a supposedly obsolete design rather than simply using the standard issue Beretta. The M45A1 represented what a 21st century Model 1911 could be. These were not rebuilt World War II frames, but newly manufactured pistols incorporating a century of lessons learned. Features included 5 inches National Match stainless steel barrels manufactured to match grade tolerances, dual recoil spring assemblies, reduced perceived recoil, and extended service life. Novak 3 tritium night sights allowed precise aiming in any lighting condition from bright sunlight to total darkness. Ambidextrous thumb safeties accommodated both right and left-handed shooters, critical in a diverse military. MILSTD 1913 Picatinny accessory rails under the dust cover allowed mounting tactical lights and laser aiming devices. Desert Tan Cerakote finish, later changed to flat dark earth Decobond coating, provided corrosion resistance in maritime environments. Wilson Combat 8-round magazines with enhanced springs and followers increased capacity while maintaining reliability. Enhanced hammers with lightning cuts Reduced lock time. Solid aluminum triggers provided crisp brakes. Empty. Weight was 40 ounces. Substantial but acceptable given the weapon's purpose. The pistol was purpose-built for MSOC, Marine Forces Special Operations Command. These elite units conducted direct action missions, special reconnaissance, and counter-terrorism operations worldwide. Their requirements differed from conventional forces. They needed absolute reliability under any conditions. They valued accuracy over capacity. They demanded weapons that functioned after parachute jumps, submarine insertions, helicopter fast ropes, and extended operations without maintenance. The M45A1 met these requirements. From 2012 to 2016, the M45A1 served as the primary MROC sidearm. It deployed to Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Africa, and classified locations worldwide. Operators reported complete satisfaction with reliability and effectiveness. The .45 caliber cartridge proved decisive in close quarters battle. The accuracy potential allowed precise shots at extended pistol ranges. The weapon's weight, initially questioned by some, proved advantageous for controlling recoil during rapid fire. In 2016, MROC transitioned to Glock 19 pistols. The decision was driven by logistics rather than performance. The Glock's polymer frame reduced weight for extended patrols. Higher capacity mattered in sustained engagements. Commonality with other special operations units simplified training and ammunition supply. The M45A1 had performed superbly, but practical considerations drove the change. However, force reconnaissance continued using M45A1 pistols until the final retirement in October 2022. For these reconnaissance specialists who operated in small teams deep behind enemy lines, the pistols' characteristics remained optimal. The unit maintained the pistols meticulously, understanding they represented the last link to over a century of Marine Corps pistol tradition. October 2022. Marine Corps Systems Command announced the complete phase-out of Model 1911 series pistols from USMC service. After 111 years, the design finally left active American military inventory. The last M45A1s in force reconnaissance were replaced by SIG SAR M18 pistols, which Marines had selected in 2019 and began fielding in September 2020. The final retirement marked the end of the longest service life of any American military sidearm. From March 1911 to October 2022, 111 years and 7 months, some version of John Moses Browning's design had equipped American forces. No other handgun has approached this longevity. No other pistol has served through so many conflicts. No other sidearm has equipped so many soldiers across so many decades. The question naturally arises, how did a design created in 1911 remain relevant through 2022? The answer lies in fundamental excellence built on principles that transcend technological fashion. Browning understood mechanical relationships that remain valid regardless of material science advances or manufacturing technique improvements. The locked breech tilting barrel system he designed remains the basis for most modern pistols over a century later. Glock uses it. Sig Sauer uses it. Smith & Wesson uses it. Browning's solution to managing recoil in a compact package proved so effective that no fundamentally superior alternative has emerged. Later designers refined details, but retained the core mechanism. The single-action trigger properly mastered provides accuracy advantages that double-action triggers cannot match. The short trigger travel and crisp break enable precise shot placement. Trained shooters can exploit this to achieve accuracy impossible with heavier, longer double-action triggers. This advantage matters most to skilled users, explaining why elite military units and competitive shooters consistently choose single-action designs. The steel frame construction, while heavier than polymer, offers superior recoil management and longevity. Steel absorbs and dissipates recoil forces more effectively than plastic, enabling faster, accurate follow-up shots. The weight reduces muzzle rise, keeping sights on target. The durability means properly maintained steel frames outlast multiple barrel spring and small parts. Replacements. World War II frames serving into 2022 prove this conclusively. The .45 caliber cartridge, while offering lower capacity than 9mm, provides greater effect per round. Modern ammunition technology has narrowed this gap, but the larger diameter projectile still offers advantages in barrier penetration and tissue disruption. For users who train extensively and achieve high hit probabilities, 7 rounds of .45 caliber proves more effective than 15 rounds of 9mm with lower hit percentages. These principles established in 1911 remained valid through 2022 because they were based on physics and human factors rather than contemporary technology. Recoil management depends on mass and leverage. Accuracy depends on trigger characteristics and sight alignment. Reliability depends on simplicity and robustness. Browning optimized all these factors within the constraints of early 20th century manufacturing. Modern manufacturing improves tolerances and materials but cannot overcome the fundamental design principles he established. The design philosophy itself proves timeless. Browning prioritized function over fashion. He valued simplicity over complexity. He designed for reliability under adverse conditions rather than optimal performance in controlled environments. He understood that combat weapons must function when dirty, wet, frozen, or dropped. These priorities created a weapon that excelled in the worst conditions imaginable. Modern pistols offer undeniable advantages. Higher capacity matters in sustained engagements where reloading is difficult or impossible. Polymer frames reduce carry weight for extended patrols or all-day concealed carry. Modular designs allow rapid customization for different missions or user preferences. Striker-fired actions eliminate external hammers that can snag on equipment. These advantages are real and have driven military and law enforcement adoption of newer designs. Yet, the Model 1911 continues thriving in an era of incredible firearms variety. Dozens of manufacturers produce variants ranging from affordable imports to custom creations costing thousands of dollars. Wilson Combat, Les Baer, Ed Brown, Nighthawk Custom, and numerous others build pistols on the platform that achieve accuracy and reliability, exceeding most modern designs. These companies thrive because demand remains strong. New shooters discover the Model 1911 and become enthusiasts. The ergonomics feel natural, the trigger impresses them, the accuracy potential hooks them. They join a community of users stretching back generations. Experienced shooters return to it after experimenting with alternatives. They appreciate qualities that only become apparent through extensive use. The way the pistol points naturally, the control provided by the grip angle and beaver tail, the positive feedback of the single-action trigger, the satisfaction of mastering a demanding platform. Competitive shooters build raceguns on the platform for IPSC, USPSA, and other action shooting sports. These highly modified pistols barely resemble military-issue weapons, but retain the basic operating system. The platform's accuracy potential and trigger characteristics make it competitive with designs created specifically for gaming. Bullseye shooters achieve 1-inch groups at 50 yards with carefully built examples. The commercial market validates this enduring appeal through sales figures. In an era when most firearms become obsolete within a decade, the Model 1911 has remained in continuous production for over a century. No other firearm approaches this longevity. Not rifles, not shotguns, not other pistols. The Model 1911 stands alone in sustained production and ongoing development. Thousands of aftermarket parts enable endless customization. Barrels, triggers, sights, grips, magazines, springs, and hundreds of other components allow tailoring each pistol to individual preferences. Gunsmiths specialize in the platform, developing expertise passed across generations. The knowledge base supporting the design exceeds any other firearm. This ecosystem supporting a century-old design is unprecedented in firearms history and shows no signs of diminishing. The legacy extends beyond the military realm into American culture and consciousness. The pistol appears in films and literature as the archetypal American handgun. Its profile is instantly recognizable even to those unfamiliar with firearms. The squared slide, the curved trigger, the grip safety. The distinctive silhouette has become iconic. Its reputation is understood even by those who've never handled firearms. It represents an era of American manufacturing when products were built to last generations rather than years. The term 1911 has become generic, referring to an entire category of pistols rather than a specific model. This linguistic evolution reveals cultural impact. Like Kleenex for facial tissues or Xerox for photocopies, 1911 transcended its origins as a specific military designation to become shorthand for an entire pistol type. Manufacturers from Argentina to the Philippines produced 1911 style pistols. The design has been copied more extensively than any other handgun in history. The collector community preserves this history with passionate dedication. Each military model 1911 carries stories written in wear marks and serial numbers. The World War I pistol that served in France still shows holster wear from a doughboy service. The World War II pistol that saw Pacific Island fighting bears the proof marks of wartime production urgency. The Vietnam era pistol that armed tunnel rats shows the modifications desperate soldiers made to survive. These are not just collectibles, but historical artifacts connecting current generations to past sacrifices. Collectors pursue specific variants with intensity that outsiders find difficult to understand. Original Singer pistols, of which only 500 exist, command six-figure prices at auction. Early Colt commercial models from before World War I bring premium prices. Norwegian Kongsberg Colts manufactured under license. Interest collectors focused on foreign variants. The Argentine Sistema Colt produced for that nation's military represents another collecting specialty. Each variation tells part of the larger story. The craftsman who built Model 1911 variants deserve recognition for maintaining tradition and quality standards across generations. At Colt, gunsmiths assembled pistols to exacting standards, many spending entire careers mastering the platform. Their knowledge passed from journeyman to apprentice, creating unbroken chains of expertise. At Remington Rand during World War II, factory workers transitioned from typewriters to pistols and produced them by the thousands without sacrificing quality. The women who joined the workforce during wartime proved particularly adept at the precision work required there. Contribution to victory through manufacturing excellence often goes unrecognized. At the Marine Corps Precision Weapons Shop, master armorers hand-built custom combat pistols, each one representing hundreds of hours of skilled labor. These craftsmen understood they were building weapons that would protect Marines in combat. The responsibility drove them to perfection. Every tolerance checked, every surface finished properly, every function tested repeatedly. The pistols they produced Achieved accuracy levels that factory production could never match. At commercial manufacturers like Wilson Combat, Les Baer, Ed Brown, and Nighthawk Custom, modern craftsmen continue century-old traditions while incorporating contemporary materials and techniques. These builders combine traditional hand fitting with modern CNC machining. They achieve tolerances measured in 1/10,000 of an inch. Their pistols represent the pinnacle of what the design can achieve with unlimited budgets and skilled labor. The fact that such businesses thrive proves the design's continued relevance. The transformation of the Model 1911 from outdated design to legendary weapon occurred through accumulation of combat experience across multiple generations of soldiers. Those who carried it in desperate situations reported back. Officers who relied on it recommended it to their troops. The reputation spread through personal testimony rather than marketing campaigns. This organic growth of respect earned through proven performance under the worst possible conditions created a legacy that survived official replacement by decades. Veterans speak of their issued Model 1911s with reverence that transcends rational evaluation. The pistol becomes personalized in ways that modern military equipment rarely achieves. Soldiers name their pistols. They maintain them obsessively. They develop relationships with specific examples that bordered on superstitious attachment. A pistol that functioned reliably through multiple firefights became trusted friend. The grip panels wore smooth from thousands of drawers. The bluing rubbed away at contact points. These wear marks became personal history written in steel. For those who carried the Model 1911 in combat, it represented more than mechanical device. It was the weapon they trusted when everything else failed. The rifle might run out of ammunition. The machine gun might jam. The radio might die. But the pistol, properly maintained, would function. It represented last line of defense when situations deteriorated to desperate close-quarters combat. It was the tool that might save their life when all other options exhausted. That emotional connection born from life or death situations cannot be quantified or dismissed. Soldiers who survived desperate situations because their pistol function reliably developed. Loyalty no marketing could generate. The story of how a supposedly obsolete pistol became the most widely issued sidearm of World War II, served through 7 decades of American conflicts, and remained in specialized service more than a century later ultimately demonstrates that fundamental design excellence endures far beyond technological trends. The Model 1911 succeeded because every element emphasized function over style, reliability over complication, and proven performance over marketing hype. John Moses Browning's brilliance lay in recognizing what truly mattered, not the latest gadgets, not the newest materials, not fashionable features, but core mechanical principles that would remain effective across decades of technological evolution: the lock breech design that controls recoil, the single action trigger that enables precision, the natural grip angle, and intuitive controls. These principles mattered in 1911. They mattered in 1945. They mattered in 2022. When the final M45A1S departed Marine Corps inventory in October 2022, they marked the end of an era. Yet the Model 1911 itself persists. It thrives in civilian hands. It dominates certain competitive shooting disciplines. It equips private security professionals worldwide. It continues in production over a century after its initial adoption. The supposedly outdated design doubted by military skeptics in 1911 outlasted every pistol intended to replace it. The equation proves simple in the end: design excellence multiplied by combat validation equals enduring legacy. The Model 1911 embodied Browning's understanding that simple, robust mechanisms properly executed outlast complex alternatives. That understanding, validated across 111 years of military service and ongoing civilian use, stands as a testament to the timeless nature of core engineering excellence. For those who carried it, the Model 1911 represented confidence. Confidence that, when needed, it would operate flawlessly. Confidence that precise shots would produce decisive results. Confidence earned through proven performance across a century of the most demanding conditions imaginable. That confidence constitutes the design's greatest legacy. It functioned when everything else failed. And in the desperate chaos of close combat, that difference saved American lives for over 100 years.